course, a lifelong feminist, which she's demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job.
Meghan Markle, the only thing she found was a rich, famous husband.
Harry and Meghan say they'd now like to split their time between spending your money in the UK and spending your money in Canada.
And this was the most savage tick yet. I mean, they actually call her a tick. Watch this.
Yeah.
Okay. King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American.
For a long time, Meghan Markle's move into Hollywood carried the weight of enormous expectations attached to every announcement. Major deals were celebrated, significant opportunities were discussed publicly, and a substantial number of people genuinely believed she and Prince Harry were on the verge of building one of the most significant entertainment brands the industry had seen in years. But as time moved forward, that confident public image began colliding with a very different conversation. And now, even the comedy world has decided the story is too compelling to leave alone. What started as industry chatter has gradually transformed into one of the most persistently discussed celebrity storylines across every major platform online. One of the most repeated talking points has been the reported financial scale of the couple's entertainment agreements, widely described across multiple outlets as representing hundreds of millions of dollars in combined value.
If you're a busy mom like me, I have a simple, no-fuss way to make your kids' school lunch every morning. Let me show you how I made this.
So Meghan, tell me about your look.
My what?
Your look.
My look.
Your look.
Oh, my look. Oh, my look. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. This is the funniest, most relatable day. My what? And you know, it's so interesting because in England, they call them ladybirds. But where we are, we call them ladybugs. And I thought, what's a ladybird? It's a ladybug. Because we say ladybug.
I was telling H the other day over breakfast in Montecito, I feel like I've finally found the secret to success. Yeah. It's this one word that I've been slowly trying to weave into my kids' subconscious. The other day, Archie was trying to zip up his jacket and he was getting so frustrated. Yeah. I got down and I looked at him, soul to soul, and I said, you can't zip it up. Yet. I love that.
Those figures created a ceiling of expectation that was always going to be extraordinarily difficult for any creative output to reach. When projects eventually arrived, audiences weren't simply watching with open minds. They were measuring everything against a benchmark the announcements themselves had established. The results, according to a significant portion of critics and commentators, didn't clear that benchmark by any meaningful margin.
They were very worried about their safety, which I get that aspect of things. After 6 episodes, I wanted to attack them.
One claim that has attracted sustained attention involves reported viewing rankings connected to Meghan's projects on major streaming platforms. Various commentators have pointed to ranking lists suggesting certain titles ended up considerably lower than the expectations surrounding their launches would have predicted. Different audience measurement systems produce different figures, and streaming success can be genuinely difficult to assess through any single metric, something supporters have correctly pointed out. But critics have used the available data points repeatedly and consistently as evidence that the commercial impact simply didn't materialize at the level the original deals suggested it would. The disappointing narrative, whatever its precise factual basis, has developed significant momentum of its own.
American telly. My brother's fiancée, Miss Meghan Markle, is on the American program Suits.
Yes, Wednesdays, 8 p.m, USA Network. Check it out. She's amazing, isn't it? Yeah?
Right. The only difference between that show and this is people watch this one.
Oh, hello.
Rather than focusing exclusively on numbers and rankings, comedians and entertainment personalities have increasingly incorporated Meghan into their material. And the approach that has proven most effective isn't the loud, exaggerated style of broad celebrity mockery. The jokes that have generated the most sustained attention are often the quietest ones. The comedian simply lists events that are already public knowledge and allows the audience to connect the implications themselves. That restraint is precisely what makes the moments land as hard as they do. Jimmy Carr has become one of the figures most frequently discussed in this context. His comedic style is deliberately calm, almost clinically unemotional in its delivery, a measured, unhurried approach that often makes punchlines hit harder, precisely because there's no signal telling the audience when to react.
But what's also in trouble is her career, because we have some new stats. We have some new stats about Meghan Markle's show With Love, Meghan. Let me read you some of these bullet points here. So, the Netflix original series dire viewer stats were revealed in the streamer's semi-annual What We Watched report, which tracks the most popular and most watched things on Netflix. Now, Meghan would have you believe she's this huge star and billions of people are watching her. No. Let me read you what's going on. With Love, Meghan came in at number 385. The show has garnered just 5.3 million views since its debut in March, which is a pretty dismal number for an original series on the streamer. Now, Suits, the show that Meghan, came to prominence on, not such prominence because I'd never seen it or heard of it, it earned 9.3 million viewers for its first season and ranked number 151. Now, I didn't even know there were 358 shows on Netflix. How do you come in 358? Is Meghan Markle the new Stephen Colbert?
Meghan Markle was there, who's a huge celebrity.
Yeah, you guys love Suits.
Specifically, Prince Harry loves Suits.
Yeah.
He used it like Tinder.
Yeah.
According to many viewers who have watched his relevant material, Carr didn't require elaborate setups or theatrical performances to make his points land. He highlighted details that were already circulating in public debate and let the accumulated weight of those details do the work. That approach, applied to a subject the audience already had opinions about, proved remarkably effective at generating reaction.
Kate Middleton is.
Beautiful woman.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Great mum. Whenever the kids are being fussy and not going to bed, she puts on an episode of Suits and they're out. So,
what are you doing? Ow!
Stop it! Stop it!
Just give him a wet willy?
Yes, in England it's called a moist Matthew.
Once a public figure becomes genuinely comfortable territory for comedians operating at that level, it typically signals that the conversation has moved beyond entertainment industry news and into the broader mainstream of popular culture. Whether audiences agree with specific jokes or find them unfair entirely, the fact that the subject has become regular material across television, podcasts, and online commentary reflects something real about where public perception has shifted. The transition from protected to fair game is one that happens gradually and then all at once. And by most visible measures, it has happened here. But what keeps this story generating consistent engagement isn't just the comedy.
William or Prince Harry? Prince William or Prince Harry? Well, the royal family, right, if you can imagine, they're like our Kardashians. And Prince Harry is very much our Kanye. He occasionally dresses as a Nazi, and
It's the persistent underlying tension between what was promised at the beginning and what has materialized since. Critics argue that the scale of the original announcements created expectations so large that any realistic, creative output was going to struggle to satisfy them. Supporters counter that Meghan has faced a level of scrutiny that wouldn't be applied to other celebrities launching comparable projects in comparable circumstances. Both arguments have been made repeatedly, and the fact that neither has decisively settled the debate is itself part of why the conversation refuses to conclude.
The other thing that's so interesting is when I was in Suits, we filmed in Toronto. And I don't live in Toronto, so I thought, am I gonna have to live in Toronto? So season 1, Toronto. Season 2, Toronto. So I was at my local beekeeper the other day and I said, how was your weekend? And he said, not long enough. I couldn't believe it. My local beekeeper said something so funny. Some nights I feel like noodles, but my husband H doesn't feel like noodles. But then the kids sort of feel like noodles, and then I just make noodles. Season 6, Toronto. Season 7, Toronto.
The reason this story has maintained such persistent prominence in the public conversation is actually straightforward when examined honestly. When Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepped away from royal duties and announced entertainment partnerships with major streaming platforms, they weren't entering Hollywood as ordinary newcomers. They arrived with a level of global name recognition that most working creatives spend entire careers unsuccessfully pursuing.
Oh, that trailer, that seems like the worst show that I've ever heard of.
I love a bad watch. I love a good bad watch. This is not that. This is really grueling to get.
They had the connections, the institutional attention, and the resources that make the entertainment business considerably more accessible than it is for virtually anyone else. Because of that extraordinary starting position, every subsequent project was always going to be judged not against the standard of a typical new creative entering the industry, but against the implied promise of what all that advantage was supposed to produce. Meghan's Netflix lifestyle series attracted particular attention across media coverage, both before and after its premiere. Anticipation was genuine and widespread. When the series finally launched, however, the response was considerably more divided than the pre-release conversation had suggested it would be. Critical assessments ranged widely.
This thing Meghan Markle ever had to a billion-dollar idea was marrying a prince.
I'm going to pose this question to you. You do a lot of business deals, a lot of negotiations.
I do.
Well, let's just.
I wish I had been involved in the Meghan and Harry leave Spotify negotiation. The grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them.
Audience reactions on review platforms reflected significant disagreement. Supporters found genuine value in the content. Critics argued it failed to deliver on the identity and vision the promotional cycle had established. Commentators pointed to streaming ranking reports as evidence that the show struggled to establish itself among Netflix's prominent titles during its release window, though different measurement approaches continue to produce different conclusions about the precise numbers involved. Discussion about a potential follow-up season generated noticeably less energy and anticipation than the original launch had produced.
Meghan Markle has finally revealed why she and Prince Harry call each other M and H. What could it be? A mystery for the ages.
Oh my God, that hat. Oh God, he's so hot. Look at him. Isn't Prince Harry? She bagged a fuck.
The momentum that successful streaming content typically builds across its release cycle appeared to many observers to have been significantly harder to sustain than the initial announcement suggested it would be. That quieter subsequent conversation became its own talking point. Because in an era when streaming success is measured heavily by ongoing cultural presence and social media conversation, a diminishing echo is itself a form of data. The broader Netflix partnership became an increasingly prominent subject in entertainment reporting. Described for years as one of the most significant celebrity streaming agreements in the industry's relatively brief history, the arrangement eventually attracted speculation about its long-term future. Reports suggested the partnership would not continue in its original form beyond the initial agreement. Supporters noted that large entertainment deals regularly evolve and restructure over time.
The best way to have a snack is to take the snack out of one bag and then move them into another bag and then label this new bag, even though this bag already has a label on it.
Critics characterized the development as confirmation that the original commercial ambitions hadn't been fulfilled at the scale the announcements implied. The outcome, whatever its precise characterization, became another significant data point in a growing collection of them. The Spotify podcast partnership followed a similar trajectory. A limited number of episodes were produced before the collaboration ended, generating substantial discussion across entertainment media about what the outcome signified. Comments attributed to someone connected to the company spread rapidly across headlines and continued to be referenced in subsequent coverage whenever the couple's media ventures were discussed. Whether those attributed remarks fairly or accurately characterize the full situation is legitimately debatable, but their presence in the ongoing public conversation is undeniable and has proven remarkably durable.
Prince Harry and Meghan, we don't give a f. America don't give a f about you.
A lot of people care. They got a Netflix
We never
show.
cared about nothing that had to do with y'all. We do not give a f. We don't care.
Does not have friends. She does not care about other human beings. She only wants power. And the only way that she feels that she can get it is by leveraging her relationships with certain people. That's not...
The recurring discussion about the tension between seeking privacy while simultaneously producing documentaries, interviews, podcasts, and public appearances that explore deeply personal experiences has remained one of the most consistently debated aspects of the entire story. Critics have argued with some persistence that a contradiction exists between the stated desire for a quieter life and the volume of content production centered on sharing that life with a global audience. Supporters counter that wanting genuine boundaries around private life is not the same as disappearing from public discourse entirely, and that the distinction between chosen sharing and institutional exposure matters significantly.
Mark Zuckerberg, Wallace Simpson, and Adolf Hitler all have in common. Miss Simpson, she was a divorced American lady and she caused the king to abdicate because he wanted to be with her. Do you remember?
So she's like vintage Meghan, old school Meghan.
That is a great way to describe Wallace Simpson. She's the original Meghan Markle.
That disagreement has proven resistant to resolution and continues generating fresh discussion with every new public appearance or release. Satirical programs have incorporated the story with varying degrees of restraint. Late-night television hosts have questioned whether the public messaging has consistently aligned with observable actions. Animated shows have used the situation as source material for episodes that spread widely online. Each of these contributions added new voices and new framings to a conversation that was already operating at significant scale, extending its reach into audiences that might not have been following the royal dimension of the story closely. The observation that has appeared most consistently across comedy routines and broader celebrity commentary isn't focused on any single interview, documentary, or commercial outcome. Instead, multiple comedians and public personalities have identified what they characterize as a pattern of repetition in the overall messaging surrounding Harry and Meghan.
The Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. But now I've actually heard their side of the story, I hate them.
I don't think they will change because I don't think they have the capacity to, but they obviously should. The one person who I think has been really happy about all of this is Prince Andrew. I'm guessing that he has been nudging the royal family. Can you believe what Meghan did, huh? Can you believe it? Dragging this family's name into disrepute.
The same themes, the same grievances, the same framing, appearing across successive waves of content and interviews. Their argument is that audiences who encountered the story at its beginning have been presented with variations on familiar material rather than genuinely new narrative territory. Whether that characterization is accurate or fair depends significantly on which content you're evaluating and through which interpretive lens. But the observation itself has become sufficiently widespread across entertainment commentary that it constitutes its own notable development in the story. Kelly Osbourne became one of the voices contributing to that broader conversation through a candid podcast appearance. Speaking from her own perspective and drawing on familiarity with celebrity circles, she expressed disappointment about what she believed the couple's California chapter had produced relative to the opportunities available to them.
It's easier to bet on yourself when, despite publicly failing repeatedly, whether it's Spotify or American Riviera Orchard or whatever, there's somebody waiting in the wings to give you another break because of the man you're married to, because of your proximity to the British royal family. Yeah, it's easy to bet on yourself. People keep giving you a chance despite the fact that you fail. The return on investment is not there. You lack the work ethic required to function in today's society where everybody is.
Her comments represented personal opinion rather than documented fact, but they attracted attention specifically because of their directness and because they came from someone whose background placed her adjacent to, rather than opposed to, the entertainment world the couple was attempting to enter. Her central observation, that difficult personal experiences are genuinely universal, and that returning to them repeatedly as the primary public narrative can eventually diminish their resonance with audiences, has been echoed by multiple other commentators across different platforms and in different formats.
Body trying to be a victim. Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Seemed like a nice lady, just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light skin lottery and still going on complaining? Acting all dumb like she don't know nothing. Going on Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google these motherfuckers? So racist, they're so racist. Some of the shit she went through was not racism. It was just some in-law shit. Cause she's complaining, I'm like, what the she talking about? Oprah, they're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist. Cause even black people want.
Chris Rock brought his own perspective to elements of the story during stand-up material that spread significantly online. His approach reflected his own distinctive interpretive framework rather than established factual claims. But the willingness of someone at his level of comedic prominence to engage directly with subject matter many entertainers had previously treated more cautiously was itself a notable development. His material demonstrated that the story had reached a point in mainstream cultural consciousness where major comedy figures no longer considered engagement with it a significant professional risk, which is its own form of commentary on where public perception has landed. Jimmy Carr's approach extended beyond recent headlines into historical context, drawing comparisons with previous chapters of royal controversy and inviting audiences to consider today's events within a longer historical frame. The figure of Wallis Simpson, the American who became central to one of the 20th century's most significant royal controversies, has appeared in several of these comparative framings.
Following Granny's rules. Don't wear your pants on your head, Harry. Don't bath on the butler, Harry. If I want to play polo in my living room, who's gonna stop me?
Stop that.
Right away, man.
We know what that means.
That's LA. She wants to be famous. She found the guy to make her the most famous in the world, and now she's over there and she's like, if she didn't marry him, she would be on The Bachelor this season. She would be Megan M. from Sherman Oaks barista. She's just got...
Every historical situation carries its own distinct context, and direct comparisons are always matters of interpretation rather than established equivalents. But Carr's willingness to place contemporary events within that larger historical conversation demonstrated the extent to which some comedians are engaging with the story at a level of sustained seriousness that goes beyond opportunistic punchlines. His observations about Prince Harry's personal journey, delivered as comedy rather than analysis, and representing his own interpretive perspective, suggested that Harry may have moved from one kind of institutional framework to another rather than achieving the genuine independence the departure was publicly framed as representing. That observation, however it was intended, resonated sufficiently with audiences that it traveled well beyond the original performance context. Several viewers also noted that Carr's material appeared to draw a meaningful contrast between the two brothers in terms of how prominently each featured in his comedy, treating one as primary subject matter while approaching the other with considerably more restraint. Whether that asymmetry was deliberate or simply reflected the available material is something audiences have continued to debate. What this entire story ultimately reflects, beyond any individual project, interview, or comedy routine, is a sustained and widening gap between the scale of what was implied at the beginning and what has materialized in the years since. The comedians didn't manufacture that gap. They identified it, named it in the language of their craft, and watched audiences respond to the recognition. The public conversation that has grown around Harry and Meghan represents something larger than royal gossip or entertainment industry disappointment. It has become a recurring case study in how public expectation is built, what happens when reality diverges from the implied promise, and how audiences process that divergence over time through the full range of cultural tools available to them, including the kind of pointed laughter that lands hardest when it simply holds a mirror up to what's already there. Which moment in this entire conversation struck you as most significant? Was it Jimmy Carr's historical framing, Chris Rock's willingness to engage directly, or Kelly Osbourne's candid assessment of missed opportunity? Drop your perspective in the comments. And if you found this breakdown useful, hit like, share it with someone who follows this story, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter when it arrives. There's always more to come.